I continuously think that there's a bar of knowledge, a bar of understanding, that there's a level that you have to reach in regards to your understanding of the world, your understanding, just a contextualization of the world before getting a job at the New York Times, especially if you're going to get a job as a reporter. That wasn't true in Weiss's case, Barry Weiss's case, when she started smearing Tulsi Gabbard. And once again, I am bought down a peg in my belief that the New York Times needs a standard before getting a job at the New York Times. I am once again wrong on that front because there is another reporter that doesn't necessarily measure up. And that reporter has a maddening conversation with Bernie Sanders, a maddening interview with one Mr. Bernie Sanders, where Bernie Sanders gets so frustrated with the woman, he just starts chastising her. Let's do that. Let's talk about it on the soapbox. So I was reading this article that one of my subscribers sent. I think it was Elephant on Coke. And I love the name, by the way. But I'm reading this article, and it's infuriating me. Like, it's infuriating me on a few points. And it takes me a while for me to kind of, like, sort through that and figure out what's the specific thing that's bugging me about this article. And there are a few. It's a New York Times columnist who's writing this, and there's two perspectives. I mean, of course there's more, but there's two threads of perspectives that I want to talk about. But then I want to get into the meat of the article on the thing that was really bugging me about it. So, New York Times columnist has an interview with one Mr. Bernie Sanders. Now, lefties will look at this and think, yay, Bernie. That's what lefties would do, because what's being said here is amazing. It's infinitely rational in regards to, especially if you have a policy of less war in the world. If you have that policy of less war, your behavior conforms to the policy of wanting less war. You do things that tries to get less war. It makes all the sense in the world if that's your policy. And ideally, less war seems to be a legitimate perspective, right? We don't like killing people. So this is the title of the article. I did my best to stop American foreign policy. That sounds a little, I'm just, it puts you in the mind of like dog whistles, if that makes sense. That's what it is. It puts you in the mind of a dog whistle. I did my best to stop American foreign policy. Now, people who are reading this may get the impression that Bernie Sanders was standing in the way of American foreign policy. And to some degree, I guess you could say he was. I guess my issue is more so with the connotations of the title. There was another one of these titles that did something similar, if I'm not mistaken, in regards to Tulsi Gabbard, where you're reading and you're like, what? Like, the title doesn't necessarily give you a really good interpretation of it, and it gives across a connotation that you don't necessarily want to give if somebody just reads the title. In an interview, one with the leading candidates of the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination discusses his long-held opposition to war and his support for socialist leaders. The socialist leaders part is problematic, because in this article, there was no support for socialist leaders. In fact, Bernie Sanders even chastises her and makes this kind of point of, this has nothing to do with Ortega. Let's go to parts of the article. And I'm going to show you what I mean when I said this article is maddening. Oh, right. I can't show you from here. So I copied this article to my email because I was not going to be deterred. Where's my article? All right, here we are. All right. So she starts asking him questions. All right, first she's kind of just elaborating on stuff. Where is it? Okay. Where is it? I'm sorry, give me 1 second. They get rid of everything when here, I think this is it. In fact, why don't I just do this? You guys can't see it anyway, so why don't I just pull it up on my phone and read it from there? And yes, I will cut this part out of this video. All right, here we are. All right, and the top of that story. All right, so let's try that. Control F. What? That's aggravating. Now as he competes for the primary right, Mr. Sanders' deep-rooted right, Mr. Sanders' former senator right. Okay, here we are. I plead guilty through my adult life. Okay, so she goes through her thing of talking about puppet regimes and that type of stuff, or about Sanders' opposition to these regimes. I'm sorry, his opposition to the United States foreign policy of intervening into countries and toppling governments. Now, he gets here, he says, I plead guilty throughout my adult life to doing everything that I can to prevent war and destruction, he said. He also said that, of course, there are anti-American sentiment in the Nicaragua in 1980s, but he did not remember hearing anti-American chants in the 1985 rally. All right. So, all right, let me just read it. So she asked him, and let's do the image roll while we're doing this. In the top of our story, we talked about the rally you attended in Managua. At the YA report at the time said there were anti-American chants from the crowd. The United States, that's her question, by the way. You attended a rally in Managua that had anti-American chants. Sanders' response. The United States at the time, I don't know how much you know about this, was actively supporting the Contras to overthrow the government. So there was anti-American sentiment. I remember that. I remember that event very clearly. You do recall hearing those chants. I think the Wire report has said, here, there, Yankee, everywhere Yankee will die. They were fighting against America. Yes, what's your point? Are you shocked to learn that there was anti-American sentiment in the crowd? At this point, Sanders has taken over the conversation. Now, understand why, though. She's asking him, this is somewhat of a basic thing, right? She's like, you heard anti-American sentiment in the crowd. Yes, I did. We were trying to overthrow their government. Yeah, but you heard those anti-American chants. Yes. Did you just hear what I told you? America, our country, was literally trying to overthrow their government and put in a puppet regime. People were being killed in this attempt. We were funneling kill squads and toppling other governments in the region. Yeah, but they were saying anti-American stuff, right? She keeps going. He says, are you shocked to learn that there was anti-American sentiment? My point was I wanted to know if you had heard that. I don't remember. No, of course, there was anti-American sentiment there. There was a war funded by the United States against the people in Nicaragua. People were being killed. Why doesn't she know that? Is this intentional or is this incompetence? Which one is it? Because the point that she's making is utterly absurd in the face of just utter reality. Like imagine a situation if Canada invades Vermont and Canada tries to put in a puppet government, and in doing so, no, that's a bad example. I guess I'm trying to find an empathetic example in this case that Americans can kind of understand. I mean, ultimately, you have a country, and in that country, you have a government. And that government, the United States doesn't like, for whatever reason. In some cases, these guys were just FDR lefties. Like not even full-on lefties, just FDR lefties. And the CIA would... There's a book by Chalmers Johnson, and two of them actually, where he talks about the operations that the CIA was doing in South America. Like they were murdering people outright, like assassinations. In other cases, not just assassinations, they were putting out pamphlets, propaganda. They were running operation campaigns to try to get the right-wing candidate in office. And when they couldn't get the right-wing candidate in office, they just whack the guy who was. Does she not know this? Like, I read this article with a bit of astonishment. And I kept thinking, is she incompetent? Or is this intentional? Bernie Sanders was doing cultural exchanges into these various countries. And you can imagine being inside of a country that your country is trying to overthrow. And the fact that there are kill squads, there are people being injured. What are you supposed to do with that? Are you supposed to welcome those kill squads and those people being injured with open arms when you absolutely know that the superpower to the north of you is funneling these things that is causing you misery? What is wrong with this New York Times columnist? Like, this is an astonishing article. And I put the article at the bottom so you can see it for yourself. But it's this part. She says, right here, do you think if you had heard it directly, would you have stayed at the rally? Understand the back and forth that they're having. Bernie Sanders explained to her the history of this. And she's still proceeding with this. Do you believe if you would have heard that? I think, Sydney, with all due respect, you don't understand a word that I am saying. At this point, he's like, this woman is a lunatic. And I mean that not in the offensive term, but almost in the medical sense. These people were being materially and physically harmed by the policies of this government. Yes, they were going to be pissed off at that because they were being materially harmed by the government. But you heard them say bad things about America, right? I don't think you heard a word that I've just said. Like this is the conversation that these guys are having. Do you believe you had an accurate view of President Ortega at the time? I'm wondering if and he cuts her off. This was not about Ortega. And this is the most important point ever from lefty standpoint. Opposition to the United States intervening into a country is not about the guy who's in the country. It's not about the strong man. Or for that matter, it's not about the government of that country. It has everything to do with us not wanting the resources of this country to be used to destroy somebody else's country. Not to mention the harm. Explain to me, within the context of the countries that we've been overthrowing, which of those countries is a beacon of joy and light? None of them. We've been setting fires everywhere that we've gone. So this position of saying, I don't want to set another fire, is borne out by history. It's borne out by history. That has nothing to do with the strong man. That's this canard that just because you say, I don't want you to overthrow Venezuela, that you somehow love Maduro. Or that because I don't want you to bash Iran to bits, that you somehow loves the Shah. Or the Ayatollah, I'm sorry. But you get my point. There is a distinct difference between loving the guy, the dictator, the strong man that's at the head of a government, as opposed to just not wanting us to destroy that government. There's a difference in those things. The destruction of the government, for all intents and purposes, means the killing of a lot of people in the pursuit of that destruction of the government. He makes that extraordinarily clear. He tells her she doesn't understand what he's saying. But then he kind of makes this point. This was not about Ortega. And this is the point that Tulsi Gabbard has to make continuously. It's not about the dictator. Do you understand? I don't know if you know it or not. Do you know that the United States overthrew the government of Chile way back? Do you know that? Do you know? I'm asking you a simple question, and he's getting pissed off at her at this point. He's clearly getting pissed off at her. My point, what point do you want to make? My point is that fascism developed in Chile as a result of that. This is him giving her a history lesson on what was taking place in South America as a result of U.S. actions in the region. Extraordinary. Utterly extraordinary. Look, I'm putting this article at the bottom so you can see for yourself. I don't want to keep this one too long. 2 points. Is this intentional or is this incompetence? Meaning, is our goal in this just to smear him in some odd way as being some kind of friend to dictators or friend to socialists, in repressive governments? Like, is that the point? Kind of like a Tulsi Gabbard-esque smear? I gotta be honest, to lefties, this looks perfectly okay. The question becomes, is this okay to the other Democrats who, in their heads, believe Russia slighted them in some weird way? Like, I don't know the point of this. Or is it incompetence? I mean, he literally had to sit there and give her a history lesson on what was taking place in South America as a result of U.S. actions. And she seemed astonished that people would be in South America would hate America for killing them. Why are you astonished by that? Who is this? Who is this person? What is your name? What is your name? Sydney Ember. Why is she astonished by that? I'm astonished that you're astonished by that. And so, I think my pet peeve here, really, is not even whether it's incompetence or intentional. It's the blatant disregard for the legitimacy of the people suffering in those countries. That's what it is. Like, it's so unempathetic. That's the thing that sticks in my craw on this. It's as if she believes that those people don't have a right to bitch and complain about America killing them. That's astonishing. That's an astonishing point of view. I'm going to end this. Like I said, I didn't want to keep this one too long. I'm going to put this article at the bottom. Oh, and by the way, before I end this, she seemed astonished by that. But look, this is... Come on. All right. Take a look at this. New York Times. That's her paper. Declassified U.S. documents reveal details about Argentinian dictatorship. This goes into papers that the United States had because the CIA was working with these dictators, helping to overthrow these governments. So the CIA was working closely with these murderous psychopaths and was giving information back to these governments because Argentina was prosecuting people that the United States was working with. Grisly stuff. Disappearing people, torturing people with the United States help. They even talk about how U.S. military officials started to get queasy with the work that was taking place. Meaning they started to get, it's like, oh God, my conscience is plaguing me on this. Even that's in the documents. Now, my point is this. This is the paper that she works for. This was recent that this was released. This was in 2019. It was a deal made by the Obama administration. They released this. I want to say, why don't you know this from just the historical context? But this is in your paper. And by the way, New York Times wrote a lot about this. Why doesn't she know this? Why doesn't she know this? And why doesn't she believe that those people have a right to suffer? And I don't necessarily mean, that they're suffering just for the sake of suffering. I just mean, of course they would be angry if the Russians kicked over DC and killed a lot of people in the process, or if the Russians, and in fact, less than that, the Democratic Party have been writing really hateful shit about Russians for the last 3 years for Facebook and Twitter ads. Think about that. And you escalate that to the point of having people killed and murdered? Oh, God, no. Yeah, of course those people are going to be pissed off and angry. I don't understand why she doesn't understand that. But this is somewhat of a smear campaign, or at the very least it looked like it tried to be, But Bernie Sanders took control of the interview, and at a certain point, just owned it. He just owned it. I mean, but Sanders is good at that. He knows his history. Kills for a living. Your love affair with this dude is unhealthy and burning anti-black people. Oh, God. I can't wait into the campaign for the corporatist candidate again. Campaign for the corporatist candidate.
It's great to meet you. Just press and hold the Bixby key whenever you need me. I'll respond to your voice or text.
Stupid thing. They put that on the cell phone. Alright, I'm going to end this here. I'll just say if this guy's in this recent from the last election. What do you mean, this article? This article is 2020. Yeah. May 18th, 2019. This was recent. They just did this interview. New York Times reporter was asking Sanders stupid questions. Yes, she was. Extraordinarily stupid questions. And not just stupid questions. It's... You and I are having a conversation. And I say, you ask me a question. We're having maybe an interview. And you say, so you were anti-war during that time? Yes, I was anti-war. You were at a rally in South America? Yes, I was at a rally in South America. Were they saying hateful things about America? Well, I mean, you know, we were toppling governments and we were funneling money into squads, groups, that was killing people in their country in order to overthrow their government. Thousands were killed from this, and they perfectly understood that the United States was doing this. Yeah, I know, but were they saying bad things about America? Were you at a rally when they were saying bad things about America? I don't know if I heard anything specifically, but did you just hear what I told you? We were trying to topple their government. We literally was putting money into the hands of thick-necked brutes with machetes, and they were killing people in the country. Yeah, Mr. Sanders, but what I'm trying to get at is, were they saying shitty things about America, and you were standing there listening to that? You clearly have not heard a word that I've said to you. Like, that's... I would think the person was insane. His point to her was, of course they're going to be pissed off. Look at what we were doing. It's like, and even for her to say that Sanders was against American foreign policy and supporting socialist dictators. Sanders made the point extraordinarily clear to her. It had nothing to do with the guy. It had everything to do with the policy. This is a maddening article, man. Utterly maddening. Gardner, the Times is full of incompetent, complicit friend hires. Friend hires, that's funny. Hoot Burns, Amanda Shaw, those are coming at some points though, if they're lucky. Wayward Terminal, easy way to understand what's happening. Look at the New York Times author of these articles. Alexander Burns and Sydney Ember. Do their previous articles have a bias? Yes. Then they have an agenda. I see. JT, you do realize her paychecks and the propaganda outlet requires her to act this dumb. I'm like, there's no way this woman cannot. Like, I think the problem here is, if you didn't know it, assume for the moment you didn't know that. You thought America was love and light. Sanders just told you there was no Santa Claus. Don't you respond to what he just told you? Like, are you a fucking robot? I mean, come on. Well, now he reads the chats. I read chat all the time. I mean, this video has already gone long, so it's not like, you know, me staying a few minutes extra is not going to matter. Is there still really debate on NYT incompetence? I mean, it's supposed to be the paper of record. It's all a Punch and Judy show to keep your attention as they pick your pocket and install Biden-Harris 2020. Bob, man, this is one of those things I think I agree with you on. Like this notion of range of debate that's allowed in this conversation. I'm sick of this lying about American foreign policy, man. I mean, don't at some point you have to own up to this stuff? One of my subscribers, Cheryl Sanchez, sent me this video, and I gotta be honest, I did not know this, and it shocked the shit out of me. And I would imagine, like, I'm aware of a lot of bad shit that America has done, but this was particularly Nazi-ish. The Marinara Islands. The Marinara Islands. We dropped bombs on those islands, and then sent those people back that we call happy, noble savages. That's what we call them, savages. We sent those quote-unquote savages back to the islands, knowing that they were going to get radiation poison. The point was to study the impact of radiation poison on human beings. That's an astonishing thing. Like, come on, man. That's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. All right, I'm going to end this. If you guys enjoyed the content, please consider sharing, liking, subscribing. Also, new content is going up on Patreon today. We had an awesome show, and that content is going to be split up now, so you'll be able to see which specific videos. One of those is going to be available. My wife and I got into this big back and forth on breastfeeding. I took a provocative stance that she wanted to take down a peg. I'll let you guys see the video. It's there. I thought it was entirely funny. That's why I put it up. But I'll let that be the end of it. We're definitely trying to expand our Patreon lists, and we're definitely trying to, we're trying to expand the show. So I'll leave that here. If you guys enjoy the content, please consider sharing, liking, subscribing, and of course, please consider supporting through PayPal or Patreon. Even $1 helps. Thanks all. Bye-bye.